Hi everybody, and welcome to my Stamperia Songs of the Sea mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. The products that I am using today from the Stamperia Songs of the Sea collection are listed in the description box below, so you can click on those links to go to the Scrap and Create website to purchase those products and follow along. And there are also links to some products available in my Etsy shop, so if you would like to purchase those, you can click on those links too. Stay tuned for the tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to begin decorating the cover for the album. And first, we're going to be placing magnets on the inside here and on the outside cover. So I have my basic gray magnets here. I'm going to be using 2 sets of magnets here because I want this cover to close really well. So the first one I'm going to place here, and this is about 3 inches down from the top, and the middle of it is about 1/2 inch over from the edge. Then I'm going to take a second magnet and place it down here. And this one to the center is about 3/4 inch up from the bottom and about 1/2 inch over from the edge. Next, I'm going to take coordinating magnets for both of those. I'm going to do these one at a time. I'm going to peel the backing off the first one, and I'm going to hold this so it does not actually catch on the wood yet, because I need to position this so that where this first cut line is right at the edge on both sides. Then I'll go ahead and press down, and that should place this in the correct position. Then I can go ahead and remove that second one. I'm going to let that one catch, and then I'm going to come over here on this side and make sure it's all lined up again and press this one down. Now I have my magnets placed on both spots so that when this album is fully constructed like this and the spine flexes, it will still remain closed. From my 8x8 background papers, I'm using this sheet. I've cut 2 pieces that measure 1 1/8 by 7 1/4. Now I took my paper, and I've already marked this, but I'm going to show you how I did this. I am using my grid here to place my paper on one of my lines here and one of my lines here. You can use washi tape to adhere this down if you are afraid that it's going to slip or move. I'm just going to hold mine down, and then I'm going to take my cover here and I'm going to center this. So I'm going to put this cover here and here in the center. So there's 1/8 inch hanging off the edge. And then what I'm going to do is make sure that the cover curve is right at the edge of my paper. Once I know that it's straight here and here, I'm going to take my pencil and trace along this to create a mark. Once I have that, I'm going to use my scissors. I'm going to cut this right along where I created that pencil line. Then I'm going to set this down here to make sure that it is correct. So I should have a small border on this side and a small border on this side. So this is the correct size. Now, before I adhere this down, I'm going to use it to cut my second piece. I'm going to flip it over this direction though, because that's what's going to be needed for that front side. So I am going to line it up on my paper. And then I will use my pencil to just trace along that cut edge. So this one is here. And then I'm going to cut this I'm going to lay this here just to double check to make sure it looks good. And now I'm going to adhere both of these pieces on, making sure that when I do the one on the inside that I press my paper really well around my magnets to cover them. For my front cover, I'm using the 8x8 paper. I've cut up from the bottom 5 1/4 inches. And then I've cut over to 7 1/4 inches. Now I'm going to be placing this in this direction here. So I am going to make sure that this is centered. It's going to have a small border at the top. It's going to actually go into just slightly this little gap between the front cover and the spine piece. And then I'm going to have a border around both sides. From the 8x8 paper, I cut a piece that measures 7 1/4 by 2 3/8, and I'm going to be placing this here on that spine section. So there will be a small, very small border on each side. For my back cover, I started with this 8x8 paper. I cut 3/4 inch off of the top. Then I cut 3/4 inch off of the right side. Then I took my fussy cutting scissors and I fussy cut around the bottles, the shell, the book, and the lantern. And there was a little bit of a darker border, like a wooden look on this bottom part. I cut that off too to give it a little bit more room. So I'm going to first, flip this direction because this is the orientation it's going to go. I'm going to first adhere this piece down to the top of my cover, and I'm going to line up this top edge basically with those cut marks, those first cut marks, and I'm going to center it side to side. Once this piece is put on, I'm going to take this piece and place it right here down at the bottom. I'm going to line up the edges and just layer this on top because I want this to show this entire image. I know it does go over the porthole, but that's okay. You'll still see both of the pieces of it, and I just like the look of that. There is a little tiny piece right here that is not covered by the background paper. Now, if that bothers you, you can take a piece of the scrap, like one of these. You can take a piece of it and put down here and cover it if you really want to. I'm just going to leave it like that. It doesn't really bother me. I might come in later and put something here, just something small. To cover off this small little missing piece on the back side, I have one of my adhesive paper cutouts. I really like this look of the bottle, so I'm going to be using it. And I'm going to peel the adhesive off the back of it first. And then I have one of these little tiny coins that I'm going to layer behind it just to give it a little bit of extra interest. Now I want the back to still lay pretty flat, so I'm not going to put anything with a lot of dimension on here, but these two things should be good. So I'm going to place this here right at the edge so that it covers that blank spot, and then I'm going to place that coin here just underneath. So I'm going to place that coin first and then the bottle. Then I'm going to take this little tiny handle adhesive paper cutout piece. And I'm going to place this piece just over here. I'm going to layer it between that shell and that first bottle. And then I have one more coin that I'm going to put on here. And I'm going to place it here, right next to the end of the shell. Now you can layer up more if you want to, but I just wanted to give it a little bit more just to add some layers, but really the biggest thing was to cover that piece. Next, we're going to come in here on the front and work on that. Now I have just a punch stuck underneath my cover so that my cover doesn't fall down like this since there's nothing inside. This will keep it flat. It just makes it a little bit easier to work on this surface. You can also open the whole entire thing up if you want to make it flat. From the collectibles paper, I cut this piece, so I'm going to use this as my sentiment here. If you would prefer a different one, you can go ahead and change yours out, but I like this one. I like the pink color and how it kind of offsets the blues and the greens of the front. And then I'm going to add some charms on here. So I have my crocodile and I have some really small eyelets, and I've got 3 charms that came with the paper from Scrap and Create. Now what I'm going to do is hang my charms right off of my piece here like this. And I'm either going to use little bits of twine to tie those on, or I might use some little jump rings to tie those on, which is what I'll probably do just because it'll add a little bit more metal. So I know first I'm going to mark where I want these. I know I want my one piece to be here. I want my seahorse to be here, and I want my starfish to be here. So now that I have those marked, I'm just going to take my crocodile. If I can see this, it's a little hard. Again, sometimes being on camera, it's a little hard to see and do things. And I'm just going to pierce those 3 holes. And then I'm going to take my small eyelets and I am going to set those in the paper. So now I have my eyelets placed. I'm going to take some of my jump rings. I just got these at Michael's. I'm going to place first the starfish one on the right and close up my ring. So it's just going to hang down off of one. I'm going to take another ring, put it on the one on the left, and place the shell and close it. And then for the seahorse, I'm going to place in the middle, but I might place it on 2 rings. So I'm going to see what it looks like first on one, and then add a second if I want it to hang down a little bit more. Okay. So I've got my first one. Actually, I'm going to close the first one. And then place the second one and the seahorse. So now I have my 3 charms hanging down, and I'm going to place this here so that it's hanging off of that part that hangs down. So you can place yours however you like the look of it. I'm going to put mine here. So I'm just going to apply my adhesive to the top portion of my piece. And then press this down so that it's fully adhered. I have my wooden anchor from the Wooden Shapes that I'm going to place here onto my paper. So I'm just going to use my tacky glue for this. It should be fine since we're adhering it to paper. I don't think we need to use wood glue. You can also use your mixed media glue if you have that, but the tacky glue should work. So I'm just going to place that here in this corner. And then the last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add some of my gems and crystals on the front cover. Now that my anchor piece is on and dry, I've gone ahead and just laid out some of my pearls and gems. Hopefully you can see them. I haven't attached anything down yet. I've got some gems here on the gears. I've got some light colored pearls throughout. I've got some darker pearls in her earrings and necklace, and then I've got some in her headpiece, and I've just put some here around this anchor. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my glossy accents to add these around my piece. And you can add as many or as few of these as you want. And if you don't like the look of this, you obviously don't have to do this. This just gives it a little bit of extra embellishment, and this is the part that I really like. So I'm going to go ahead and apply all of this down, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's done. So I have all of my gems adhered down. I'm going to set this aside and let this dry completely before I do anything else. So that is all for this video. It's a little bit of a shorter video. We will come in and decorate the inside of this later once we add our pages in, but I like to do that last once I have my pages done. In the next tutorial, we're going to jump into decorating the pages, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you in the next tutorial.